Hello, and welcome to episode 1 of Foggy with a Chance of Seagulls. This is the real take this time. We have had some technical difficulties, but we are excited to be here with you. Thank you for joining us. This is a podcast about Giants baseball for the most part, but a lot of other stuff too. We're going to be talking about what's going on with the Giants. We're going to be talking about Giants history. We're going to be talking about philosophy. We're going to be talking about lots of different things. And maybe we should introduce ourselves and who we are. I'm Evan Lindsay. Whatever. Yeah, just trust us. My name is Evan Lindsay, and I'm joined by my friend Clark Weininger. We are friends from high school. Yeah, do you want to talk about how we met and why this is happening?
Sure. So Evan and I met in high school, and for about the last 10 years, we've been talking about doing a podcast. We bonded over our mutual love of Giants baseball, and we were originally bonded as enemies in high school over petty things like we liked the same girl and she picked Evan over me. Things
Clark
like
got the long straw on that one though. Ultimately, I got the short straw.
I think I won
for sure.
I would think I won in the long run.
Big time.
However,
hey, shout
we're
out
not
to
here to discuss that. But no, we're born and raised in San Francisco. We both grown up as the biggest Barry Bonds fans ever. He really shaped the way that we view baseball and view, I think, just sports in general. And then gained a lot of our kind of intelligent discourse in regards to baseball.
You choose if it's intelligent or not. That's up to you to decide. We think it is, but
based on those 2010 Giants teams, and Timmy, Posey, Bochy, et al. And now we are firmly in the Farhan and Gabe era. Two folks who have, I think, checkered fan bases in the Bay Area, but two people fully support, fully stand behind, and I think the fruits of that labor and their partnership and the organization as a whole are starting to bear fruit now for the Giants. And we thought, what better time than jump on the bandwagon as they finally start winning sustainably with youth and depth. But more than anything, this is an idea that was hatched many, many years ago. And the two of us in our own journeys to kind of career stability and enjoyment of life are finally at a place where it makes sense for us to start this dream that we've had for a long time. So I hope you all enjoy this. I hope you can get behind it. And if not, we're going to keep doing it anyway. So
exactly. Unfortunately, whether you like it or not is not going to change anything about what we do. Just kidding. I mean, tell us what you like and tell us what you don't like. But this is really, it's a special moment for me to be doing this with Clark. You know, we had a few false starts today. We recorded fully for 30 minutes and it crashed. But, you know, we're back and we're here. And it's kind of a testament to our friendship. We haven't lived in the same place for most of our 20s since high school, and we maintained our friendship through, you know, Zooms and FaceTimes and texting, mainly about the Giants. Not mainly, that's one of the big things we text about, but
it's male friendship. We don't talk about real things.
We've never been real in our lives with each other, but yeah. And so if you're watching the video version of this, if you're just listening to audio, we're going to put these episodes out on YouTube as well. You know, we're starting scrappy with just webcam video, but we'll work up to something more professional eventually. But there'll be the video component. But as you can see, we are not in the same place. I live in Brooklyn. Clark still lives in the city in San Francisco. And so this is kind of just, a way for us to stay connected about the Giants and talk and philosophize and all different types of stuff. And I'm really excited to be doing it with Clark. So maybe we can start with what our week has been like in as far as Giants baseball goes. Just get right into that. If you want to go first.
I think no better time to start this podcast than right now. No, I think, jokes aside, this has been a really exciting week in Giants baseball. And so exciting month. Exciting month. basically since the end of April. It's just been a fun time to follow this team.
Yeah.
Um, and we're going to go into kind of what's been going on recently. The Giants today are finishing an 11-game stretch against the division, a 3-game set in LA, and then a 7-game homestand against the Padres and then Diamondbacks. And it has been an unbelievable run of comeback victories, incredible long relief outings by our youth. I think there are some interesting lessons to be taken from a couple of the pivotal moments from games. Maybe a blocking the plate conversation may arise today. And in general, I think we're going to check in on where we are as a franchise, what we're going to be moving into, hopefully, and kind of who are the pieces, what stands out to us. And I think a lot of the conversation is going to relate to Gabe and Farhan as the kind of puppeteers of this and the people whose vision this organization is kind of led from.
Yeah.
But before we go into that, Evan, you had a very interesting week kind of related to baseball, not necessarily directly to Giants baseball, but I think this is a great way to start off today. So yeah,
Yeah,
you take it
totally.
away.
Well, I'm gonna get into this. I'm doing it again. I'm not letting it go unnoticed, but my mom gave Clark her ticket to the game on Monday. And
I was
I
really
know Clark
hoping we
wanted
weren't going to talk about this. I was avoiding this. I can tell this very briefly because yes. So Evan's mom very graciously invited me to the Giants game. Had a extra solo ticket, in club level no less. Which shouts to Pat Ma.
big baller.
But it was Monday night's game. Giants were a bit feckless at the plate,
They
and
were.
the Padres, Juan Soto hit 2 home runs. I was around all these little kids and Padre fans, most of the little kids being Padre fans. And it was like, I don't need to do this on a Monday night. I have work tomorrow. This is annoying. I don't want to deal with the stupid traffic coming home. Um, so I had texted my girlfriend Amanda. I said, "Hey, if by the 8th inning we just show no life, I'm gonna head home a little early." So I do. I put on the radio, of course, and then in the 9th inning, one thing leads to another, and Mike Yastrzemski hits a walk-off home run that, had I just had a little patience and non-LA Dodger fandom uh, motives, I may have seen in person. But I watched it from the comfort of my bed, which I also very much enjoyed. But yes, thank you, Evan, for revealing to everyone that
Well, I'm
I
I'm
left
only
early.
I'm only bringing it up because I you will if you stick with us on this podcast, you will get to know this, but Clark is in the top 1 percentile of Giants fans. Like he's going to games, he is following, he is watching, he is
I'm about
reading.
that.
He's about that life. And so this is just a funny exception to the rule, and that Yaz would hit a walk off only makes it funnier. By the way, that guy's got a penchant, a penchant for
Ooh,
for
penchant.
for walk off home runs. One of my
Big time.
best memories at the ballpark in the last few years was seeing him hit that game with the walk off grand slam, I want to say,
Yeah.
or 3-run home run. And I have
Was
never
that the
gone so
hater
crazy.
one? Was that the hater one last year, or was it because he had one against the Diamondbacks a
Yeah.
few years ago?
I think it was a couple years ago. It was a couple
Yeah.
years. It was like in a more bleak year, but it was like, wow, that was a special moment. But anyway, Yastrzemski is a good Giant. But yes, I will talk about my week, which is as we have mentioned or not. I'm in Brooklyn, but so it's hard for me to watch games on the East Coast. It's I'm older than I was, and I just can't do it anymore. I used to in college, but it's hard now. I watch when I can. I mostly am a highlights watcher and a reader of articles, and I stay as abreast as I could. But I especially was not tuned in this week as much as I wanted to be. I was following scores and whatever, of course, but I was in Ohio playing a show with my friend Claire, and in Columbus, we were just opening for our friends who were on tour there. And then I got to meet a bunch of her family out there because she's from Ohio, and we went to Claire's grandparents' house, and Claire's grandfather is Joe Nosek, who was a former Major League Baseball player and coach. He played for the Indians, now Guardians. By the way, you go to Cleveland, Chief Wahoo is everywhere. Inescapable. They did not stop using him. But
That's pretty funny.
but yeah, he had this basement room with just like artifacts and memorabilia. I'll edit in some pictures of some stuff, but I kind of want to
It's
show
kind
you
of
some
like a
things here.
Kirk Reader of the
Yes,
Guardian Indians.
it's very much that. Let's see. This is him right there.
What up, Joe?
And let's see here. Or maybe he played for the. Oh, am I lying? He at least played for the. No, he played for the Indians. Oh, he was a coach for the Indians, but he played for the Twins. And just yeah, these are from the old Comiskey Park, I
Wow.
want to say, or something. This was his actual game worn jersey right here. And it was just super cool. Signed baseballs by Ted Williams, and there's a
Teddy
hat from
ball
Tony
game.
La Russa that he signed for him.
Oh my god, a Las Vegas hat. That's sick. Just kidding.
There's this one which
Sell the
is
team.
maybe not so of this time, but very a time capsule to that era. But relevant to the Giants, I wanted to bring up he has Mickey Mantle, DiMaggio, Ted Williams signed baseballs all right next to each other. So crazy. But there's this bat from our guy Bobby Bonds, and he said I don't even like Bobby Bonds, but he just got a real big bat, and that's why I keep it around. And
Phrasing?
and the and the thing that I wanted to share the most is that Joe is good friends with Dwayne Kuiper, the
Legend.
GOAT, the legend, and they played together. And Joe had 3 home runs in his career. Held that over Dwayne, which I think is really funny. I told Joe about that the Giants did a bobblehead of the 1 home run, and they were like, it doesn't make sense. He wasn't on the Giants, and it was like, we just love that guy, and it was just so fun hearing him like tell stories about that. And we talked about when Dwayne got sick and was going through the chemo stuff, which was kept pretty under wraps out here, out in the Bay.
Yeah.
And he was just out of loop as anybody, and he was calling everybody that he knew, just trying to get in touch. And thankfully we're so blessed that Kipe was able to recover from that, and is still announcing for us Krug too. But yeah, anyway, it was just such a special moment for me, just to like my friend Claire, and even her dad, who's a big baseball fan too. They were like, Evan is keeping up with Joe, and like it's just like, I don't know, to keep up with a major leaguer about baseball was like a very special moment for me. I was like fangirling hard. So
It's
it
got
was
to be
really
one
fun.
of those moments where, since neither of us played past like middle school, to be able to be like, all of this work, reading, following, watching, there was a point to it.
Yeah, truly. I mean, it's a recurring joke that we talk about, right? Of like, why do we know Nafi Perez's name? Like, I need to put that out of my mind and like learn financial literacy or something more useful to me. But no, it all really paid off, and just hearing those stories was so amazing. So anyway, I was really excited to share it on the podcast. I told him that we had a podcast. I don't know if he'd ever listen, but yeah, just
if
super
you're listening,
fun.
Shouts to you.
Shout
and
outs
shouts
to
to
you.
your 3 home runs that are way better than Giants legend Dwayne Kuiper.
But yeah, I think I just wanted to share that. But let's talk Giants baseball. I mean, what we came here to do.
I talked a little bit about it, but hell of a week we've had. And since you were off, gallivanting in Cleveland, Ohio with, what's his last name again? Sorry, Joe.
Nosek. Nossek.
Evan missed some of the Giants baseballing going on this weekend. I think one thing, to steal something you texted me this week, was it's lovely to wake up every morning and just see Giants win.
Oh man,
it adds so much to our mental health in an unfortunate way, but also
exactly.
a good way.
I mean, just eating breakfast and like watching the Giants just like pull another one out in a different way every time is like, it's such a good way to start the day. And like it's nice. I was telling you this, but It's, you know, and I was in Ohio, but I'm following. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I'm there, and like, and I feel more compelled than ever to be following. I think this is like since 2021 the most fun baseball that the Giants have
Yeah.
played, and it's just so fun seeing them, do it through pitching, do it through hitting, doing it through defense, just like all different types of stuff. But it's been a
Well, I
good
think the
week.
through line is very similar to 2021, and I think this is something we
Yeah.
wanted to get into.
Yes.
Is this Farhan and Gabe era? I think
Yeah.
Farhan, it technically starts in 2019 with Boch, but I think 2020 Gabe takes over, pandemic year. They start off cold, but I swear if that's a full season, they make the playoffs that year. They
Yeah.
just had one of the worst starts and were kind of getting into it, whatever. And also had, and another kind of theme we're going to talk about today, but like really had no idea who was catching for this team in
Yeah.
2020. And so in 2021, Buster comes back. We have this great year. And last year, ups and downs, um, and a lot of issues with depth and minor league options. Again, we'll get more into that. But this year, I think it's the fully realized. I think Evan and I have talked about this. Fully realized Farhan and Gabe vision for the
Yeah.
ball club, and I'm so excited by the work that they've put in, the consistency to which I think they have believed in their process, almost to a fault at times, um, but yeah, I think, and this week is the kind of coronation of them in many ways.
Yeah.
Sweeping the Dodgers in LA, scoring the most runs we've ever scored in a 3-game series in LA, taking 3 of 4 from the Padres, a series in which, each game did not feel like we were the better team until the 7th inning.
Yeah.
And then from the 7th inning on, dominated them. And
Yeah.
then this Diamondback series so far, it's been just ping-ponging back and forth. And we have won the first 2 games. The third one is later today. So
Yeah. I mean, I think it's the NL West is strong, but it's teams with deficiencies. And
right.
I think, we've talked about that. The Dodgers, the sweep was amazing. I mean, the beat LA was just like coursing through my veins. Like it was just so beautiful. But Bobby Miller and Emmett Sheehan is different than Urias and May and, Bueller and all those people. And so, and maybe
Corey
they are the next
Seager's not
generation.
walking through that door.
Exactly. I mean, it's a top heavy lineup with Betts and Freeman, and then I don't know, who comes after that. And
JD's been good at times, but like,
yeah, I mean, they're
if
still
you're
the Dodgers.
relying on JD Martinez, I mean, the Red Sox saw this last year. The Red Sox were very similar to us last year, and JD was a major part of their team. And
yeah, I mean, he's a great
you
player.
You can only dust on so much magic pixie Dodger dust on him before
exactly before it runs out. And I mean, I think it's been talked about a lot, but I think the Dodgers are gearing up for a run at Ohtani or some big names, and I think a lot of players agree that that's probably where he's going to go. So hopefully that's not the case. I still irrationally believe that the Giants will be the team that he ends up with, but I think that this week was, as many people have said, it was the gauntlet of the NL West. It was like, okay, the Card series was like, maybe there's something happening here, but the Cards are broken down. They're without Yachty now, and it's like it's a different team. And the Dodgers are on the road. We were on the road, and that's still big, but they have their own thing. But like the Diamondbacks especially, and the Padres, it's like they can show up. They all have the talent to like really like win a game in a convincing way. And so I think I was waiting to see a little bit like what was going to happen this week, and I think a lot of fans had the same thought of just like,
truly,
if they can do this, then maybe this means that this season is a different season, and it's not just some mirage thing. And not for nothing, like I think there used to be this narrative about the Giants of like June comes around and then something falls apart. Do you know what I mean? And like this year, it feels like they really found something, and I think that's a testament to something we talk a lot about, which is depth. And I think that this team has depth that some other teams in the NL West and in the majors in general don't have. And I think that there's real push. It's kind of this basketballization of baseball, I think, that's happening, of, you know, trying to just bring in these marquee guys, like think you can just like be, you know, the early 2000, late 90s Yankees and just like get a collection of all the biggest free agents, and that's what's going to win you games. And
I think it's also related to the fact that, you know, this conversation of baseball dying among kids and not being popular. And so teams are going out and being like, we need to sign these stars so that fans come to our games. And actually that does work. I mean, I saw that Monday night at the Giants game. There are so many kids who love Fernando Tatis and love Juan Soto. And it's very interesting to watch that, and then have people around me. Casey Schmidt came to the plate and go, "Who's this kid?" And it was a Padre fan, an ignorant Padre fan. But I think
was 12.
He was 12. Idiot. No. But I think that speaks to what we're talking about, is that baseball's in this kind of interesting, like, I think the Mets are a huge example of this too, is you spend a lot of money to say, hey, we're taking ourselves seriously. And the Giants, they lost out on the marquee free agents they were trying to sign. Judge stayed in New York. And Correa we had signed, and then he's
great Met, by the way.
He went back to, great Met. He was a Met longer than he was a Giant.
That's true.
Rumored, I guess. But yeah. And so I think coming into the season, it's like, how are we going to get the fan base excited for Taylor Rogers, Ross Stripling, Michael Conforto, Mitch Haniger, and Sean Manaea?
Yeah.
And I think the key to that is those guys are great supplementary pieces, and on the margins are going to help us win ball games throughout a long season. But what the front office couldn't say is, hey, we love Patrick Bailey. We love Luis Matos. We think Casey Schmidt is going to be a clubhouse motivator, a versatile, great defensive infielder who can hit a little bit. And at first could hit a lot of bit. Now he's been struggling a little bit. But I think you bring up these guys with an intention about their role, and you're not going to gift them a position, because you don't want to have them fail and go, well, our hope was that Matos would be our starting center fielder this year, and he's batting 100 after the first month of the season, and now you've killed the kid's confidence.
Right. Well, can I jump in? And I mean, like,
please.
It's interesting. It's like, this is, as you've said, it is the realization of Farhan and Cap's vision. But at the same time, it's like, as you said, they almost trust in their process to a fault at times. And I think what we're now seeing is the best version of it. But, you know, VR is our starting third baseman this year, right? And it's like, now it's like, it's JD Davis's position to lose. And I think that's what they were trying to avoid with these young guys, is putting them in. And I think, who knows what the psychology of that is for VR, but it's like, that's a lot of pressure on a young guy to come up and be the guy immediately. But I think there's a lot of thoughts that came up of, you know, from what you said, of like, we couldn't outright say this is going to happen, but it's also because we didn't know. Do you know what I mean? It's like, Matos had a bad year last year, and it's like,
Bailey
you can't
too.
be like Bailey too. And you can't rely on these guys are going to come up and immediately be major leaguers. But that's what we're hearing from everybody. From, you know, this is what Buster said to Pavlovich, is, you know, Bailey makes a difference. And I think that it's a testament to the player development culture that Farhan and Cap have, you know, created in San Francisco, because it's now finally prospects can graduate to the majors and understand that if they are able to deliver and do the results and make the adjustments, they're going to stick around. And I don't think that was true necessarily when Boch and Sabian and Evans were running this team, but now that
Gabe
that path is super clear,
done a really good job with that.
Yeah. But
Yeah, and
I
I
think
think to that point too, they don't have to be the stars when they come up.
exactly.
So Tuesday night, I believe we had the walk-off walk, and Jock comes up, bases loaded, and draws a walk. We win the game. But the only reason he was in that position is because Matos, Bailey, and Schmidt all got on. And I think one of them hit a single, two of them took walks. I wish I remembered the exact details, but they
Hopefully a
just
bat
kept the
flip in
line
there.
moving.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they kept the line moving and got to the thumpers. They got to
Yeah.
the veterans. And the same was true for Yastrzemski. When he hit his walk-off, the guys are setting the table in front of him and going, all right, the veterans who have been here before will deliver
Yeah.
in the right situation. So
Well,
I think,
I think it's looking at I just when you just had our technical difficulties, I was finally got to watch the highlights from last night, and it's you watch Jock at the plate, and this is a man who you trust in those
yeah,
situations. Do you know what I mean? And it's a different thing than um and he plays a different role now on this team now that the parts are coming together, and you see the value of Jock, of Wilmer, of now Yaz is kind of a veteran on this team, and it's like those
hmm
guys just like are able to slow the game down and play it the way that they need to. And I think that you see that throughout our lineup. Now there's a trust that you'll be picked up. Do you know what I mean? It's like
right,
this is a team that is going to take strikeouts and take walks, and but at the same time, they're it's kind of like it's funny because I think a lot of KNBR caller type people or whatever that are like focusing on stripling or whatever, just like that have their eyes off the ball of this team. Maybe
right.
look at it and be like, it's this heartless, like analytics based, like stats driven thing. And I think the beauty of this team and what makes it fun to follow is that it's not that actually. It's like that's a huge part of the way that they assess information and give players information. But I
But
think
in
at
the
the end of the
moment,
day,
that's very far removed.
yeah, exactly. And I think it's the way that they're playing right now is like especially with like the rule changes and how fast the game is played now, it's like this is classic baseball. This is like
Yeah.
baseball that like your dad remembers as being like what he grew up with. It's like keep the line moving. We have the most bunts in the majors this year.
The
Remember
number of
those?
the number of safety squeezes we've put on this year. I mean, it's been
it's well,
it's
it's
just yeah,
the statistics bear out some things that that managers have always known, that players have always known about baseball. It's like get guys on and then hit it out of the park. It's like it's
yep.
not a crazy concept, but I think
And
they're
watching the
putting
Padres this week are such a dichotomy to that. We get into extra innings against them, and Machado's trying to hit a home run even though he's got two guys on. And you're not going to ask Manny Machado to put a bunt down. But on our team, no one is bigger than moving the line. And that was true in the 2010s when we were winning World Series. No one was
yeah.
bigger than the situation. And yeah, I think that's the through line here. It's
Yeah.
a team that
And now we
doesn't take itself that seriously and really sees itself as a team.
totally, and I think now we have power too. Like I think in 2021 we were maybe too dependent on power, but like
Yeah.
now it's like there's enough guys with enough thump to be able to make a difference in the game and like make those little hits worth it. Just getting on base and doing the whole thing, like um shout out to Brandon Belt, but like that man was vilified when he was a Giant because it's just like his process makes sense. And that's actually being borne out by his
Yeah.
heir apparent, Lamont Wade, because it's like when you get on base, good things happen when you trust the people around you. And I think this idea of like being protected in the lineup is like this thing that we kind of like stats fans kind of felt was antiquated, but it's like it's true. Do you know what I mean? It's like
hmm
if you trust the guy behind you, you're just going to try to get on base at all costs. And this kind of relates back to what we were talking about earlier of, um, VR is like, I don't know, like maybe that was like a bit of a failed experiment, but who knows? I think he's a great player, and I think that there's still more to come from him. But at the end of the day, this is not my original idea. I must say it's from I forget which podcast, but the Giants decided Tyro and Lamont are going to be big parts of this team, more so than we could have ever thought. And like, aren't isn't like them being like fixtures on this roster so much better than if we went out and got whoever the heck, like Trey Turner
Yeah.
to play
And
second? Do you know what I mean?
borderline all-stars this year. I mean,
Truly.
better than the alternative we could have signed. But going into the year, people were going, why are we putting Lamont Wade at first base without any hesitation? And it's like Farhan goes, well, because we know he's going to be good.
Because
We're
we know he's
very
going to be
confident.
good. And I think,
Yeah.
too, it's like, it's what's beautiful about the season is it's like, it's all these seeds that have been planted since Farhan has come
For
into this
years.
organization.
Yeah.
Is they're now bearing fruit. It's like we were talking about. It's the Jocks and the Wilmers, but it's also like, you know, the Yaz and Tyro and Lamont, and it's like those guys were exciting when they first came to the team because like, whoa, we like can do the Muncie thing now or whatever. But it's like it's not just about having one season. It's about having guys that you can trust for multiple seasons. It's like Max Muncie's Max Muncie because, well, is he Max Muncie now? I don't know. But he was Max Muncie for a long time because he was consistent every year. You knew what he would do. And
Right.
now it's like, we're slotting people into the right places to have the most success, which is the whole, like, it's the lineage of, and, you know, the Rays to the Dodgers to the Giants. And it's like, you look at what the Rays are doing, they're spending the least amount of money in the majors, maybe minus the A's, and they have the
Minus
best
that
damn
one
team
team.
because, the Las Vegas A's, because they just know how to put people in positions to succeed, which is kind of, not to get too what esoteric about it, but it's like, I think that's like should be all of our philosophies of life, right? It's like,
Yeah.
what don't focus on somebody's weaknesses. Like Yaz and I think and Wade and Tyro, maybe there's too much pressure on them to be this person, but it's like when you have the roster as it is constructed, and maybe this is a good segue into talking about that. I would love to just like run down the roster and like talk about why it works and like why we are putting these guys in position to succeed and like really thrive in those roles.
Yeah. I think nothing exemplifies this more than the catching position, which just
Yeah.
this season has gone through so much. And I think it's very natural to go from having a Hall of Fame, and I am so annoyed with the Hall of Fame voting process and their rules, stipulations, all of it. But like, if you could put Buster in, it would make me so much more positive about this museum.
Well, we've been waiting to go to Cooperstown until they put Barry in, which is a freaking shame that they haven't.
Yeah.
But
It'll
I think it
have
might
to be for Posey, hopefully.
It'll have to be for Posey.
God.
And it's going to be for Posey.
Yeah.
And there's no question about that. And if you think there's any question, you might not want to listen to this podcast anymore.
Amen. But no, I think reeling from Posey going through injuries to him coming back and then retiring left not just like we need to find a catcher, but I think the imprint of him is, and what he brings from the catcher position is what we've been searching for, because all of the other pieces make sense when you have a stoic leader who can hit but has such a beautiful relationship with pitchers, has such a fundamental understanding of the game. And I have been rooting for Joey. I've been rooting for Joey Bart since he was drafted, but I think it's been very clear that he has not displayed those characteristics naturally. And he's been really working hard, to his credit, to fit into that role, but those are massive shoes to fill. And it is so impossible for a guy like him who was brought up in 2020 and then kind of spent another year in the minors in 2021 while Posey was back, and then last year was kind of thrust into the starting role. He has not had the kind of linear development that even Patrick Bailey had. So kind of backing out of that, going into the season, Bart was questioned by Kapler openly. And you know, it was very clear they knew that the key to the season was to have stability behind the plate. And so we signed veterans like Roberto Perez. We kept Austin Wynns, who was kind of a solid backup for us last year, and signed Gary Sanchez to a minor league deal. And I don't need to rehash every step to that process, but I don't think it's a coincidence that we let Gary Sanchez go right around May 1st And Patrick Bailey made his debut on May 12th, and we have been doing nothing but winning since. And
Yeah.
exemplified by Wednesday night's game, where the pivotal moment was Gary Sanchez getting called for blocking the plate. And should he have been called for that? You know, it was an interesting interpretation of the rule. I think by the letter of the law, he was blocking the plate. And they mentioned something on the broadcast that was interesting of talking to the catchers about, and Blake Sable, who had a very nice night from the plate, talked about since spring training, they've been working on the guys of like, this is where you have to position. Once you
Yeah.
get the ball, you turn and tag. And I think it's much easier for young players to like implement that rather than a guy like
Yeah.
Gary Sanchez, who is here kind of, who's been in the big leagues for a while or kind of been on the fringes. But he is such a poor framer, and Bailey is such a great framer. And I think that Padres series really exemplified the difference in who's behind the plate. And
Yeah.
that makes such a difference. So I will let you talk. I've been rambling here
No.
about the catching position, but I just, this week in particular, really solidified why the Giants have really turned their season around
Yeah.
because of Patrick Bailey being brought up. And
Yeah.
it's amazing.
It's amazing, and I think it's you know, catching is it's the hardest position to fill with good quality major league players that can play defense and hit too. And it's just like there's a reason that that's always been true. It's a really tough job. And the thing is like it's unfair to like compare Bailey to Buster, but it's like he has an innate, you mentioned this, like an innate knowledge of the game and like just intuitive feel for what to do, because like he hasn't had the time to like work with all these pitchers, a bunch. Like he's has a little bit and some of them in the minors, but um you see the difference. Like I think Gary Sanchez is like sorry that he's getting all this, he's bearing the brunt of this comparison, but I
I'm not
think
sorry.
he um but I think he really exemplifies like the difference between them two is so stark. It's like Sanchez, was trying to find a team to stick with, and I guess it's the Padres this year, and he's been hitting, but it's like there's a reason he didn't stick in New York because he just couldn't. There's a reason they go for Higashioka and whoever else. Do you know what I mean? It's like you have to be able to play that position. It's like who's that guy who's like not Jacob Stallings, but like there's catchers in the majors who like had long careers just because they can't hit a lick, but they can do the field general thing, and that's
Yep.
the most important part of being a catcher. And I think to Joey's like credit, like he was put in a real tough position. Like being the heir to Buster Posey is like that's a real tough place to be. But I think that now again, I think it all leads back to like now we're seeing what the plan was. Like I think when they drafted Bailey, I was kind of like, what? Like it's like we've got Buster and he's gonna be around for a little bit more, and then Bart's gonna come up and it's gonna be fine. And I don't
I
know.
think
And
it was
there's
interesting too. Tyler Soderstrom was a better prospect who the A's picked just a few picks later in the first round of that same draft. And I was like, well, if you wanted a catcher, why didn't you pick him? And Soderstrom is now no longer in the plans for the A's to be their catcher. He's still mashing and he's going to be a good big leaguer. But
yeah.
I think to this point, Farhan and company recognized the traits that they needed from their future catcher.
Yeah, and I think we really needed this in our team, and I think he's made such a difference because, as you said, like Buster has said, because it's not Roberto Perez, it's not Austin Wynns, it's not these guys that are just going to be here for a year and move on. And I think that that Buster, like we've said, it's like 2022 is because Buster wasn't there. Like I if you had to like put it down into one sentence, like that's why we sucked last year. And
26
I think
game difference, and I think that is completely accurate.
yeah, and I think, and I'm a big fan of music. I make music, I produce music, I write music, but I'm just mentioning that to say like somebody like Bailey is like seeing like a young like phenom of music come up, and it's like you hear one song and you're like, oh, this person's gonna be around for a long time.
He has
They
it.
just
There's
have it,
something
and
about
it's
it.
just like it's just an energy thing. And
Mhm.
and I think that we've as Giants fans like been forcing that energy for a long time. It's like the Mac Williamsons of the world. Do you know what I mean? It's like with Bart and it's names that we talk about, and then they flame out in the majors. They have a couple weeks, and it's like you get this feeling inside of you. Maybe it's this, but it feels different with Bailey, and I think
It
it
does.
feels different with Matos. And I think those guys are like they. We talked before the year about that upgrading defensively was like going to be a big priority, and then you see the moves and you go, I guess we're like, but it felt kind of lateral in some way.
Like Mitch
But
Haniger, defensive special.
exactly, but I think it's like it's again a testament to what the coaching staff and what Farhan does is like we we don't just take players for what they have been, we take players for what they could be. And I think it's like you look at somebody like Tyro, who maybe wasn't the most defensively minded player ever, and he's made huge strides this year. And
Yeah.
you look at a guy like Wade, and you seem like, oh, maybe he's just one of those guys who you stick at first because
Oh man,
we're
he
running
has
out of
been
spots. But
such a good
he's
defensive
been
player
great.
this year.
Look at JD
Yeah.
Davis playing third base. Look at he hasn't been perfect, but Crawford is still Crawford. Do you know what I mean?
Shouts to Kai Correa. First
Truly,
shout out. Many
truly.
shout outs to come. I mean, really, that is the fruit of his labor in many ways.
And I think it's like it's fundamentals of the game. It's like just teaching the game the right way and establishing culture that promotes, players, like promoting that within the clubhouse. And I think, if you haven't yet, on the Giants YouTube channel, there's some great episodes of Kai Correa just like working with players, like showing them how to do stuff in such there's such a human way that he does it too. It's not like you're not doing this wrong. It's just like this is where the position you want to put yourself in to succeed. Like your glove has to be here so that you're not gonna. Do you know what I mean? It's just like the simplest things that like I don't know. It's super cool to see. Kind of that frontline look, but it's this roster top to bottom, it doesn't have holes. It's
right.
And if a guy becomes a liability, then next man is up, and it really feels that way in this thing. Like,
or if
like
a guy
let's
gets
look
injured,
at
next man up. Yeah,
exactly. Like let's look at all the position players right now. Like Crawford, Davis, Diaz is up. Let's see what he's got. Estrada, Schmidt, VR, Wade, Conforto, Johnson, Matos, Slater, Peterson, and we're not even at full health. Like I don't want to like belabor this point too much, but we've been really hit with injuries, and that we're still doing it at this level is so impressive. And I think even makes it more impressive.
Year, we were the year before. And again, it's back to that depth thing. And I think the key too is minor league options, where we've got guys
exactly
behind the Confortos, Hanigers, Yastrzemski's, Slater crew that have many options. We've got Bryce Johnson, who comes up and you're like, stick him in center, he's great. You've got Brett Wisely, stick him in center. He's figuring it out. No, sorry. Brett Wisely's been great, but no, you bring these guys up, but you can send them right back down. So we're getting to the end of our time.
Yes,
and we'll go into more of these position player kind of dynamics and stuff, and kind of philosophize more about the Kapler and Farhan kind of era and all that. But but no, I think we're finally seeing the coronation of this process of the intentionality behind it, and it's wonderful to see as a Giants fan, but also just someone who appreciates kind of patient development, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I asked, do you feel good? It feels like you feel good about where we are. I think we can be wrapping it up, but yeah, I just wanted. I think it's I hope it was interesting, like putting out a podcast like this. It's like I don't really know what our demographic is. I don't know who's going to listen to this. Maybe it's just our parents. Maybe it's not even your dad. But
doing other things.
Well, he'll be on eventually. But I think it's like if you've ever been a fan of Giants baseball, like this is the time to get back into it. Like of all the times, like if you enjoyed the Dynasty era, this is the beginning of a new thing. We've been wanting to be the Dodgers for so long, and finally it's like we're their equals. Do you know what I mean? And like it's going to take, I'm not saying this is going to be the year that we're going to win a World Series. Like who knows what's going to happen? The playoffs are a crapshoot.
Yeah, the goal
it's not the point.
Isn't the result. The goal is the process.
The goal is the process, and I think it's putting out a fun, not just a watchable, but a fun team to go take your partner, your family, your friends out to the ballpark and have a good time and be like, and be able to be like, Matos is this young kid that you know what I mean? That like, there's so many narratives that like I'm really excited to talk about more on this podcast. Like, there's about 10 thoughts that I had to hold my tongue on, and like,
Oh, I know.
we have endless stuff to say, but this was really fun. I think this was a great first episode. I'm really excited for what's to come.
And let's go Patty Barrels.
Let's go Patty Barrels. Just quickly, eventually we'll be more professional with an intro and outro, but just want to say, if you enjoyed what you heard today, please subscribe wherever you get your podcasts, Spotify, Apple Music, Google Podcasts, Overwatch, whatever you do, Overcast. And also, if you are a YouTube person, subscribe on YouTube. We're going to be putting stuff out there. And just stay tuned. I think we have have hundreds of ideas of things we want to talk about, and we're also willing to, ultimately we have fun talking about the Giants, regardless of if you're listening or not. But because you're listening, we care about what you have to say, and so if you're friends of us, or even if you're not, feel free to message us, DM us, tell us what you want to see, what you want to hear us talk about, where we could be better, where we can improve. But just like Cap and Farhan, we're going to trust the process. Thank you so much for joining us this week. Clark and I are really happy that you're here, and we're excited to do more. And go Giants. I hope they have a great week coming up. And
let's get the sweep of the Diamondbacks.
Let's get this sweep.
Let's do it. But yeah,
all right.
Thank you all for listening. Have a good rest of your day.